Verbindung hat mich sehr interessiert und ich danke sehr für die Vorstellung derselben.
What you just heard was the first magnetic recording done by Valdemar Poulsen in 1900, that specific year, recording the voice of the Emperor Franz Joseph. That's the starting point of everything. Now, let's take a little step backward. Actually, already the American Oberlin Smith in 1878 had the first idea to record something on magnetic support, but he wasn't able to do that. He discussed this with Valdemar, and in fact, Poulsen, after a few years, was able to create his first machine, which I have to read. I'm full of little notes today. You will see we have a lot of things to discuss about. The telegraphone. And obviously, he did for other recordings, but this is the first one that we still have, the one made by the emperor who is telling his name in German, clearly. Then after that, the story goes rapidly. It develops with the Flumer in 1928, Fritz Flumer in Germany, and at that point, already after just a few years, AEG Telefunken will develop the first magnetophone, the K1, and at that point, thanks also to the political context in Germany, after a few years, also in Nazi Germany, things will greatly enhance and go rapidly, which in fact then will, after the war, will come back in the Western civilization, actually, together with other inventions. But this is just the intro. Now, let's get back to the episode, to the core aspect of the episode. So, welcome back to the Tape Dialog Podcast, episode number 2. Let's welcome our co-host, Karim Qqru. Karim, are you there?
Hi there, how you doing?
Hi there, welcome back.
Welcome to you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I want to thanks a lot all the people who watched the first episode. Thanks everybody for the comments, for the opinions. Thanks so much.
Exactly, right. Thank you. Also from my side. So today we are going to focus mainly on the tape types, which clearly regards mainly cassettes, but not only, as we will see. So we'll try to give you a lot of information. We are filled once again with notes and things because it's a complex topic. We want to give you more information as possible. So please forgive us if we are a little, if we proceed slowly and calmly with a lot of cuts and editing in this video. We want to do things correctly. Okay. So I think it's cool to start immediately with something that does not exist, actually. Type 0 cassettes. I know Karim has something to say about this.
It's a funny story because before 10 minutes ago, I started talking with Guido about how incredible was for people of my age, the Type 0, because it was something which does not exist. But it was something very funny because I have some tapes, and it's pretty funny because I have KDK, Maxwell, and stuff like that, because there were tapes produced mainly in Hong Kong and China, and they were very, very, very cheap. And a lot of times they were sold with no shell, no Norco, and just in boxes. I remember in record stores too, and they were very cheap. A lot of times you didn't know they were Type 0. I discovered that they were Type 0 after years and years.
Yeah, because clearly we have all the different types, as we will see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Simply, these cassettes, they were so bad that they did not meet the requisites of Philips and IEC. We will see in a moment where it is IEC. Okay, let's start with the real types, with the type 1, the most famous of all, which is the ferric oxide.
Yeah, I think that if we look in our homes, in our blank tapes collection, maybe is the most common, maybe is the most produced in all history and is still produced. So IEC1, type 1, we got 3 subtypes. I'm gonna read, forget my 14 years old, my memory. It's basic ferric, it's microferric that they got more particles, and ferricobalt. Microferric and ferricobalt, both in 1971. So the weak point compared to other IEC type, it's the height.
Yes, this was a little bit, unfortunately, the downside of type 1, which also gave birth to the other types, that the very high frequencies have some problems. Now, especially with the basic ferric type, because afterwards, when we go towards the microferric or the ferricobalt, things get a little bit better. I just wanted to add that the microferric type was introduced by TDK, and the ferricobalt by 3M, because these names are still big in the industry, although unfortunately TDK does not do tape anymore.
And one thing is that all these kind of tapes, all the blank tapes, all the main tapes used for reel-to-reel and audio cassette too, we got 3 different visions. Japan, Europe with Germany and Holland, and USA. We got, okay, this is one of the most common action to do with
doing it wrong though.
With the blank cassette. And so the fun fact is that during the last year of 60s and during the 70s, every year the factories, like for example TDK, BASF, and stuff like that, every year was something new for tapes and for cassette deck, for Dolby, for bias. So it's a continuous improvement, and that's why we got so many types of audio tapes. And this is the thing I love most about this, because every kind of tape is for example, now we're going to talk to type 2. Type 2 chrome tape is famous, for example, is the most used in classical music. And why? Because
don't tell us too much. Don't tell us too much. Let's stay a second in the type 1. No, I just wanted to add, I'm sorry to interrupt, that as you said, that's important. There is this evolution, guys, because one thing, they invented type 1 and then they passed to type 2, type 3. No, type 1 has a long evolution, which is why some type 1s are fantastic. I mean, sometimes I use mainly type 1. There's no need sometimes to go and get the type 2 or type 4. They're better, but they're also very expensive, as we will see. So the particles get extremely small. That's one of the key elements. I wanted to show you the color also of a few of these oxide, because it's something typical. Now this is, for example, is TDK. Let's try to see something more recent, done by Fox. Let's start, see? Now the recording the masters is a little more light. Let's put also...
Yeah, because it's SM900 formula.
Crappy Sony, nothing special. Colors are starting to get very different, actually, but there's always this brown, this light brown. Let's see another one by Maxell, or it's all things that you can easily find at a decent price, I would say. And already there are some changes, as we can see. But the typical, I would say, is this one and this one.
Yep.
This TDK is really, really dark. And this is probably the best one, though. This is probably the best sounding one. Okay, sorry, Karim.
I can go upstairs and take mine. I got a lot of Maxells, but
I bet. You must be filled with them.
Yeah, a little bit obsessed. So,
I love the sound.
Yeah, we're talking about chrome. There is
We're jumping in type 2.
Yeah.
Do you want to say something about IEC?
IEC, how many times you heard this acronym, which stands for International Electrotechnical Commission. And in 1978, it sets the standards for standards that were previously fixed by Philips for the types of audio tape.
Exactly. Okay, in fact, we forgot to say that the first cassette was invented by Philips in 1962, thanks to Lou. Exactly, and his team. And unfortunately, he died just a few years ago. I also did a post on my Instagram. Incredible. He was over 90, very, very old. A genius. Okay, after type 1, which once again is the basic type of cassettes and also reel-to-reel, but we will explore a little more the world of reel-to-reel at the end of the video. Let's jump now to type 2, which was invented just a few years after. Again.
Yep, in 1968. And there is an incredible story because the formula of the chromium dioxide on tape was of DuPont. And BASF pays a lot of money for royalty. A lot. But this kind of tape was something really new and something that worked a lot better on the high frequencies. And also here, after years on the low frequencies, it was the Advent developed a cassette deck mainly for chrome tapes. Then from tapes, we got BASF CRE2 and Maxell SX2 that are one of the most common and famous chrome tape. But there is a lot of audio cassettes that people think are chrome tape are pseudochromes because the particle of chromium dioxide are a lot less and they're more ferric cobalt with the different percentages.
Yes, this is a fundamental point that a lot of people maybe sometimes don't know or forget, that the chromium dioxide is something more found in Europe, which is very difficult to do, extremely toxic. I know Karim wants to say something about this after. And that the Japanese world developed this other type, the ferric cobalt type, with cobalt doped inside the formulation, reaching, I think, in my opinion, even better results, or at least the equal results to the true chrome type tapes.
The world and the myth that it's around the chromium dioxide tape is legend, is mythology, because nowadays this kind of tapes is seen as something incredible. But in reality, what Japan with TDK and Sony, what they did at the time, working on a free royalty tape, because the royalties of DuPont were really, really, really high. And with the pollution caused by the waste of chromium dioxide, they were the cause of the stop of mass production in the first years of 90s. Also, if someone thinks that they're not, there is also this war between chromium dioxide is better than pseudochrome of Japan. But, I think that the taste is everything here, because they are two great kind, and maybe it's the first step. And I know for a lot of people, maybe I'm just saying bullshit, but it was the first step for trying to create an audiophile, audio cassette tape world. And in my opinion, they get real close in some cases.
Yeah, something I wanted to add referred to this is that sometimes we forget that it's good to use true chrome cassettes with European decks, while instead the cobalt type, the ferric cobalt type, should go with Japanese decks, because they created their machines around that type when you select clearly the type 2 on the deck. So if you have a Japanese deck, you should use, for example, TDK, Sony, etc. Well, for example, if you have a chromium dioxide true BASF tape, for example, you should use a European deck, like the Duals, or I don't know, what's another European deck? There aren't that many in the end.
The main example for what I was saying before is the Deutsche Grammophon cassettes. that kind of quality, that kind of warmth in the low frequencies, dynamic range, and you are high on volume. You see your volume unit at this deep green, never goes to red, and something unique. And it matched a lot with the European spirit. What was the world of analog and audio cassette at that time, with decks and tape produced in Europe.
Indeed. Let's say what was the novelty of this type of formulation? Finally, they were able to record extremely high frequencies. So really achieving a true fidelity, almost 2020. In the beginning, no. But slowly, Type 2 tapes got very good. Once again, this concept of the evolution of the type, let's remember this, because when they were born in 1968, they weren't that good. That's why they decided to do Type 3, Type 4. But afterwards, in for example, 20 years in the 80s, Type 2 cassettes of the 80s are already incredible. I mean, also in the lower register, because that's the weak point of Type 2, the bass frequencies, unfortunately.
Yeah, there are the cassettes of election for music with a lot of dynamic range. So, for example, classical music. And what Sony Galleria and Deutsche Grammophon made in the 80s, but also some cassettes of Dire Straits and other pop rock music made on pre-recorded cassettes on chromium dioxide tape are incredible, really incredible. And if you got a real good deck now, and you get a good one with cassette which still works, is incredible, and it's an incredible experience for your ears.
Absolutely. That's another important aspect of that. A lot of pre-recorded cassettes already in the 80s, maybe even the 70s, help me if this is not correct, they used a Type 2 formulation, but with a Type 1, we could say, playback. The shell, the little notches were Type 1 because the majority of people perhaps didn't have a correct deck. So you had the quality of Type 2, but you were using the equalization of Type 1.
Yeah, because the first deck was the Headvent 1, and this kind of manufacturing new decks for Tape 2 was like for Dolby BNC. It's something here, by here, by here, by here. And during the 70s and the first years of 80s, there were a lot of stuff happening every year.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to say is that these incredible high frequencies were achieved thanks to a stronger bias.
Yes, yeah.
And we are going to do a dedicated video on bias, okay? Probably the next episode is going to be completely dedicated to that, so we're not going to talk too much about it. I want to show you a few Type 2 cassettes, actually, virgin cassettes. Let's see. Now, this is... Let's see, because I recorded my stuff on it, clearly. Let's say also that the main characteristics is this very dark and crayon
smell, yeah.
Type of, let's see, if I have my fat face in there.
You're challenging me now. I gotta go to take mine class. Sorry, yeah.
Go. I'll show other things. Here are some examples from TDK. As you can see, it's very, very dark, actually. Or... other by Maxell. As you can see, also it's very nice.
I'm here.
The quality of the casing is much better. It's fantastic. That's also something, a little touch that I like a lot in higher quality tapes, because these casings here are just beautiful. Like, for example, this other one by TDK. Beautiful. Once again, as you can see how dark that it's not an oxide. I call it oxide before. It's not an oxide.
I know I'm a little bit late now. We are talking, but this is my favorite one.
Aha. What is it? Maxell? Which one? I can't read it.
It is the URF60.
Aha.
Yeah, and then...
Instead, one of my favorite Type 2 though cassettes is the UX Sony by Sony. Wow.
Yeah.
Also, how it's built. It's just
I'm coming.
Incredible. There you go. You see how dark that is? Okay. Aha. Okay, so I wanted to show also a true chrome. This is still sealed. Chrome Maxima 2, BASF. Fantastic. I think you can see everything. And also, I wanted to show you a
Agfa? I've got some Agfa.
Aha, great Agfa. This is a high quality chromium dioxide tape, but you can play it in a type, you have to play it in a type 1 setting in your deck. But as you can see, chromium dioxide tape, and this is a high quality jazz tape.
And there is so this is Sony, but this is made in Holland. So it's real chromium dioxide tape. This is one of the Sony Session Classics. It's Schubert. We are in the 80s, so the pot printing on the home body is starting to grow, because before there was just adhesive label on tapes, and a lot of tapes produced from the second part of 70s and mid 80s are without this tape on body. This is one of the first one with pot printing.
I see. Cool. Okay, I just want to say a recap of the evolution of the Type 2, because I was reading my notes and I think it's interesting and it's important to say the exact sequence. So first they invented in 1968 the chromium dioxide, CrO2. Then we have the creation in Japan of the ferric cobalt, FeCO. Then they did the iron cobalt, which again in Japan, and well, not only Japan, but mainly Japan, and is probably the best of all, I would say. And then unfortunately we have the current cobalt tapes, which are terrible. I did a video on this. Here is a link if you want to take a look. I also put it in the video description, but we will do a dedicated video.
They tried.
They tried. We'll do a dedicated video on this topic, so I don't want to spend any more words. Okay, I think we can pass finally to Type 3.
The ghost.
The ghost.
Yeah, the
ghost. A lot of people, Type 3? Where Type 3? What is Type 3?
It's a real ghost, because we are in 1973, and I still read. Sorry, am I old, and time goes on, and older and older and older. So it's ferrichrome. I got one Sony FECR. It's ferrichrome. They costed so much. The quality was high, but in my opinion, not so high. And the metal, which we're talking later, arrived 6 years later. In 1979, killed it. They were not produced worldwide by tape manufacturers. It's a victim of what happens and what we talk often about manufacturing and trying and going on here by here with also experiments. We try, and it's a good victim, because I got one of those tapes were Sony FECR. They are not so bad, but they costed a lot. And still today, if you're going to find and buy one of these tapes, they are hard to find, and be prepared to spend a lot of money.
Exactly. So why they decided this? Once again, keep in mind the concept of evolution. They were at the beginning of the Type 2, which wasn't that good. So they said, let's put the good part of the ferric type, the base, and the good part of the Type 2, the highs. Let's put them together and let's try to do this. But clearly you had some problems in the bias, because at that point you don't know exactly which type of bias. Plus they were extremely expensive. And as Karim said, after just a few years, they had Type 4, which is much better.
Now we are in 2023, and it's easy to speak about these things now. But all the process with the fixation of the ferric cobalt particles, the chromium dioxide particles, the cobalt particles, it's not so easy. Now we just read books, we just read the articles on the web. But at that time, you didn't know how they work and how they work year by year. And I pay a lot of respect to these brands because they invested a lot of money. Okay, they didn't work for free. We all know, but there were a lot of dreamers in those factories, in those
Pushing the
manufacturers.
boundaries.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to say one more thing about Type 3, that from what I know, I did a little bit of research, only Sony, who invented it, BASF, Scotch, and Agfa did them. And I was lucky a few years ago because on eBay, I got a batch of Type 3, and they sound amazing. I also have a special deck who has Type 3 selection, because if you look at your decks, I would say 95% of the decks don't have Type 3 selection. So that's also something difficult. And here it is in all its glory, FECR. Let's try to see better.
Yeah, it's the same. I got the same.
Here we are. Even this one is extremely dark.
Dark.
Can't
As
see.
Leonard Cohen said, you want it darker. Yeah, I got.
There we go.
I love so much the tapes with adhesive label. Yeah, I love them. I know that now we got a UV and pad printing, but I love so much adhesive label on tapes.
It's nice. Let's see. I think you can see, because they say here, for example, let's see if you can see this. To play it, in fact, in Type 3 position, but nobody has that practically, and Type 1, not Type 2.
Type 2, yeah.
Remember that. If you have a Type 3...
Yes, but the main issue was about the bias. That's why it's a pity, anyway. Also for the Type 3, there is a sort of mythology around it. It's not my favorite one, but the quality is undeniable high.
Yeah, exactly. I think there is quality. I mean, because a lot of people don't even have one and say, no, it's terrible, it's a mistake. No, it wasn't. If you talk about Type 4, clearly it doesn't make any sense to take a Type 3. I agree on that point, because they are extremely expensive on eBay, very expensive. Also because they're rare, clearly. Okay, so now we can finally dive in Type 4, IEC4, also known as metal.
Now, many people got an incredible love for metal, and I agree with them because I try to record a lot of music on metal ones, for example, Sony Metal XR, and I recorded from Rachmaninoff to Black Flag to the Jesus Lizard to Frank Zappa, and they always sound great. So the 80s were kicking in, and metal was born in 1979, the year of Sony Walkman.
And my year also.
And incredible sound quality, but also an eye to the aesthetic part. For example, the Sony Metal Master in ceramic that now costs as a new lever, and who needs one? I can understand why they love so much, and I noticed a detail that young people love so much for the aesthetic part, the metal ones, because I noticed just one detail talking with friends. There a lot of young people, and not only young people, love so much the metal ones because, as the one in ceramic by Sony, all the aesthetic part gives them a little bit of that quid of collectibles. And if we see the prices on eBay, and other e-commerce and markets, they are incredibly high, and aesthetically they embrace the spirit of that years.
Okay, so I want to go through a few specs because it's important. Although it is a little bit difficult, so we're going to read here. First of all, I want to say that who introduced the type metal type, the Type 4, is 3M. Okay, this is important, and they were able, through the metal particles, which are made of iron, but not only. You could use cobalt, but also nickel. Small particles instead of the oxide, which is something completely different, and you can go very, very teeny tiny. Also, that is something that makes it so good, so fantastic. And you could achieve 10 to 12 dB higher in signal to noise ratio. That is huge compared to the other tapes. It's incredible. Why this? Because of the higher saturation, the magnetization, the retentivity, and coercivity. We're going to talk about these in future videos, a little more technical. And as we were saying, the smaller particle size. All this created this incredible sound where you have all the full spectrum and even more. Incredible. Clearly, you had to use special heads to play metal Type 4s. Not because they were consumed by the metal particles. That is that's an urban legend.
Yeah.
That is not true. You just need a specific head because of this high flux they had, okay? Because otherwise, there is no consumption of the head. I mean, starting from Type 2 onwards, the heads became better and better, so no problem from that point of view.
Just to know, the head, it's an electromagnet. So this is fundamental to understand things like bias, like flux and stuff like that. Just one last thing. The Type 4 metal was perfect for the first mastering with, unluckily, an eye to the loudness world. And if you try with a blank one to record albums which are famous for loudness. For example, Californication of Red Hot Chili Peppers, which is pretty famous for having maybe 90 clips during the length of the album. And the metal embrace, also in this case, what was starting to happen in the last part of 80s and the first years of 90s. Then nobody expected in those years what's happening now with the loudness war. But anyway.
Okay, I'll add a few other things which I think are interesting. Turning back to the heads, we were saying mainly the sandust, permalloy, or the glass type of heads were necessary. Also because they were driving this high current in order to achieve the correct recording on this extremely difficult to record type of a metal particle. In fact, a lot of times it's difficult to re-record on Type 4 cassettes. A lot of people have problems, and I have experienced this. I mean, when you record something and you re-record on top, you can hear the new recording clearly, but in the pauses between each song, you still hear, at least that's my experience, the song before that. So the magnetization is so strong that it's difficult to realign everything.
I broke the tab on the cassette just to, then, but you can just add a piece of scotch too. But with the metal, I broke the tab, so it was like a memo to my mind. I recorded just one time, and that's it.
Okay.
That's it forever.
This reminds me something we forgot to say about the cassettes, about the notches. We forgot to say that each cassette has a specific code, we could say, group of notches that the deck decodes. That's how they can understand automatically if it's Type 1, 2, 3 sometimes if you have it, or 4. The Type 1 has these 2 notches on the side. Let's see if you can see it. Otherwise, I'll put an image. Maybe it's easier. I'll put an image. So you have all 4 of them very clearly. And apart from this, I want to say something important about Type 4. Now, a lot of people maybe are going to say, boo, you're crazy, what are you saying? But correctly done recording on a Type 4 cassette with a high-quality deck really comes close and maybe in some cases surpasses a reel-to-reel recording. I mean, it's incredible the quality that you can achieve with a quality Type 4 cassette. It's incredible. I mean, it's just, if you don't try it, you won't believe it. Do you agree?
I agree 100%. And I want to add just one thing. When you got a complete line high hand, or also not high hand, it's not necessary have a Nakamichi Dragon or
No.
but when your heads are clean, your pressing pad, your pinch roller are clean, and everything is all right. The bias is okay. Everything is in the right place and in the right time with the metal. You can achieve incredible sound quality. I agree with you about reel to reel and a really good record metal one. And then, as always, we're talking about taste, but there is also the taste is a huge part of all that of all, but the specs and the sound quality and all the steps made in this world, in the analog and in audio cassette tape world, the top of the mountain is the metal.
Yes. And if you use, for example, a deck with a double speed, there are a few. I did a video on this. Here's a link if you want to explore that. Then you're increasing also the dynamics. I mean, at that point, you're really getting close to perfection in the analog sphere. I just want to show a few examples before closing up, talking about reel-to-reel. So let's see a few. This is an example from Maxell. And as you can see also, the casings are beautiful. I mean, they put so much care in doing these. It's amazing. I mean, I just love to hold them. I love to listen to them.
Talking about the C.
One of my favorite.
Yeah, talking about the C0 used in this period, we got just remember and know one sad things. We cannot produce anymore. We cannot achieve this quality because the plastic they used, it's a total different world. So that's why they are treasures, and people love them so much, and they search with fury on eBay and on e-commerce. And there is maybe a little bit speculation about the prices. We gotta admit that one because
A lot.
It occurs to nowadays to everything, and maybe this behavior, this attitude is damaging this incredible world. And in the future, I'd like to talk a lot about this incredible tragedy that's happening to the analog world, not just for vinyl. It's 5 years that this kind of madness started with vinyl, but that's happening in the last year with the world of audio cassettes too, unluckily.
True. Okay, I want to show probably maybe the pinnacle, we could say. Maybe somebody's not going to agree, of the metal cassettes, which is the TDK MAR. I don't know if you can see the case of this baby. This is something drawn by by NASA almost. It's so incredible. No, they didn't, but it's something beautiful.
It could be.
It could be. Incredible. I mean, this was extremely expensive, and it's only a 46 minutes. If you can find these at a good price, buy them, because it's practically the best of the best. It's also because of the case. I mean, there's no resonance. It's just perfect. The passage of the tape inside, the transport.
Incredibly top notch. Okay.
I just wanted to say one thing on the reel to reel.
There is the last one, 1978, Panasonic.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Bravo.
The metal evaporated.
Exactly. That's something I had to research while we were preparing, I must admit, because we all know about this type actually, but sometimes we forget about the evolution, because this is the evolution, the one that Karim was referring to, of the metal tape, is the metal evaporated type called ME, invented by Panasonic actually in 1978, but it wasn't applied yet. And we find it mainly in videotapes in the end. It can be also analog, but mainly digital. And this is extremely toxic to do. You're never going to see this again, that's for sure, even more than the other ones. And I want to show, I have an example here. At least it should be. I'm not 100% sure, but it should be. Also because, as you can see, it's very shiny. You can really see it's made out of metal. Very dark, very thin, and very brittle and fragile, and very expensive to do. And practically all the digital little cassettes that you find in the late 80s, 90s. Okay, before just saying the last thing about reel-to-reel, we were talking about here with Karim also about the health problems. Because when I say toxic, actually, it's not only nature toxic, it's also health toxic, right? I mean, a lot of people were dying.
Yes, Guido, because during the production and mainly the waste of chromium dioxide tape, the pollution was for the environment, but for the health too. You know, it happens a lot of time for when we talk about chemistry and we talk about mass production of a lot of things in this sad world. People get sick.
They were getting cancer, you were telling me.
Yeah. This is also why the research about manufacturing a new stock of chromium dioxide tape is at an end.
Unfortunately, yes. The cobalt types, I tried them. They were terrible. Okay. No, I just wanted to say this last thing about reel-to-reel, which the majority, clearly, of reel-to-reel tapes that we all know use in the past and today is a Type 1 formulation. It's not communicated that way, but it is that way, clearly. It's ferric oxide. Now, if you take a look on eBay and things around, you're going to see also very rarely some Type 2 reel-to-reel. Very expensive, fantastic sound, obviously. But apart from that, as long as I know, Type 3, no, and not even Type 4 are available on reel-to-reel. If somebody knows about this, please inform me. I would be very glad, but I don't think they exist. It would be too expensive to have kilometers of metal Type 4 tape.
I never heard about that, but I don't know if someone who's watching this video has some news. We are here, but I can't remember anything about it.
Exactly. Okay, guys, we've reached the end of this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Please leave your comments here below. If you have any questions also, ask them. We will be glad to answer. And we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you, Karim, for everything.
Thank you. Ciao, ragazzi.
Ciao. Well, guys, if you're enjoying my videos and you're enjoying my channel, please consider to subscribe by clicking the black and white logo here below. Also, don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll never miss an episode and you will become a true member of the analog community.